your uppercut, try to hit me in the gut, thinking that I won't react. You whispering my name, thinking I won't be the same. Turn fiction into fact. See what you didn't know, bruises that I'll never show, slipping on your every jab. So tighten up your fist, step into the ring with this. I hope your mama's got your back. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. You hit a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. Just 'cause I took a break, you're making a huge mistake, thinking you can take the throne. Look at you trembling, step into the lion's den. Bet you wish you stayed at home. Begging for mercy underneath your breath when I ain't even sweating yet. My legend's written in the stone, yeah. You're crying danger in defeat is now your only friend. Even your mama's gotta know. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You did a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. You did a buzz. Oh, 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 First round, fifth round, final round. Oh, 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 yeah. First round, fifth round, final round. No, 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 no. First round, you thought you would've knocked me down. Fifth round, bleeding out the side of your mouth. Final round, holding the sound of my name in the crowd. You did a buzz. Oh, 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 oh. You did a buzz. Oh, 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 oh,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Time. Finally, thank you all for being patient with us. And with us today is Commander Lance McMillan. Commander, how are you?
Oh, all things considered, not bad.
It's always tough around the holidays, and there's always more to do than you've got time for. So, Zandring ostensibly will be joining us if he's not here already. He sneaks into the room every now and then, and I don't. I should just keep the thing open because I don't get a notification when he's in, and all of a sudden, boom. Thank you all for joining us. Obviously we had a few difficulties. Neither of us have actually seen the speech yet. We wanted to watch it with you when we get our first reactions, and obviously there's going to be interest in this anyway, so hopefully we'll go forward. The only thing I'd also like to do is Commander McMillan is on our Discord. Come in and join, and if you want to talk to him or any of the others, it's not like, it's not like I'm tuna salad or nothing. I have comments too, but apparently he's the big star of the Discord. But in particular, we've been discussing a little bit about what's happening with Greece and Turkey, and I think McMillan has given us some insight into that. So I think we may, if you've got time, want to discuss that with you briefly when this show wraps up, because I think it's important. So, that notwithstanding, let's go straight into the show. So I will bring this up now. Yes, for those of you who are joining us, this is simultaneous on Overtime and In Time. We're going to keep it running on both channels. You can watch it on either. News in general is being moved all to Overtime. Discussions are going to be all on In Time. This really hits both, so we decided to do both simultaneously. It's a little schizophrenic. If you've never, you can pick and choose whichever channel suits you best. So I'm going to be in the live chat on Overtime. The live chats are overlapping, so we can communicate back and forth. But all of that stuff notwithstanding, literally, I haven't seen any of this. My hope is that this part that we're about to cover is at least somewhat entertaining or valuable. This was Nancy Pelosi, still the Speaker of the House, the current Speaker of the House, introducing Zelensky as he arrives. So let's. I think that's going to happen momentarily.
The towels to dry up any wetness.
Well, and I love he just sort of wanders in, and there's just the cameras are live, and I can be seen internationally. All right, so now this is a bit of a surprise visit. Nobody was expecting. We did find out, I think, yesterday or the day before that he was going to be visiting, and or that he was already there. We discussed this yesterday, that he was coming. The speculation has been that there was going to be something new major with this. I'm not sure I necessarily expected that. This is a great time to go, I think, at least in my view. It's winter. The war is kind of settling down a bit. At least for now. It's going to obviously intensify. He wants to keep people's interest up, and he wants to keep people invested in what's going on. Biden is investing I think it was $1.7 billion more in this, and then Congress is part of a package that's going actually to NATO and NATO allies, another $44 billion, if I remember correctly. Is that about right? What are your thoughts on why now for the visit?
The numbers you're throwing around kind of sound what I've heard, but I haven't been able to access anything today. I've been sitting in a operating room, waiting for my father to finish surgery. So anyway, those numbers sound about right. And I would note that any money being given to NATO, you can expect, I would think, at least part of that to be going also to Ukraine, because the NATO countries, as they acquire new stuff from us or wherever, will then immediately have old stuff they can get rid of and likely provide it to Ukraine.
All right. We may have sound. I can't tell if we have sound. Yes, we do. All right, we got sound.
It is a profound privilege and with great pride that I welcome President Zelensky to the capital of the United States. We had talked about the fact that recently, a few months ago, we had the privilege of welcoming the First Lady to this temple of democracy. She made a great case for the need for more weapons, more humanitarian, more economic assistance by talking about the children. I've told the president again and again that the children and the war, using women as a weapon of war, is something that the Russians are going to have to answer for. But today, at this time, here we are today to welcome the brave, courageous President Zelensky in order to praise not only him, but the courageous, unified people of Ukraine for what they are doing to protect democracy. Over the last 10 months since the invasion, you, Mr. President, and the Ukrainian people have met Putin's brutality with a strong will. Your visit comes as the Congress prepares to again pass another consequential round of security, economic, and humanitarian assistance. Within the next 48 hours, hopefully this will be done. And I want to applaud President Biden's plans to deliver Patriot air defense system, additional HIMARS, and other vital military equipment. We are very, very pleased at that decision by the president and the determination to get that done. And I give tribute to you, Mr. President, for making the case so clearly about how this is needed. I was telling the president earlier that my father was a member of Congress when Winston Churchill came here in 1941, the day after Christmas, really within a week and 81 years of today. And he made the case for calling upon America to help fight tyranny in Europe. He said at that time, "We are doing the noblest work in the world, not only defending hearth and homes, but the cause of freedom in every land." That is exactly what the people of Ukraine are doing. Their own homes, their own hearth, but freedom and democracy throughout the world. 8 decades later, it is my official honor. My father was there as a member of Congress 81 years ago. It's my official honor now to welcome President Zelensky to make an address to a joint session. And I said to the members, my father being there that day was a source of pride, part of our family legacy. President Zelensky speaking to Congress today, and your being in the chamber will be a bright part of your own legacy. Thank you, Mr. President, for honoring us with your presence. The entire Congress, Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate, look forward to hearing your message of unity, courage, and determination. With that, I'm pleased to yield to the distinguished President of Ukraine, the courageous, determined, unified President of Ukraine, President Zelensky.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Great privilege, first of all. Thank you for the invitation. Great privilege to be here. And really, I prepared speech to Congress, but I think speech to Americans. That is great honor for me, and I want to give all the messages that I prepared in your language, with all respect to your country, for that support that you've done for Ukraine in our battle. Really battle for our freedom, democracy, Speaker Pelosi said, but for our houses, families, for our great children, the same great as you have, of course. And for me, again, honest that I'm here. I'm the second time here, but the first time was before the war, right, before full-scale invasion by Russians. And, you know, what can I say? Different feeling, like different history, like different life. But anyway, in this life is very important that Congress of the United States is a big friend of Ukrainian people, really, of freedom of Ukrainians. And thank you so much that you supported us in financial support and with really that things, that ammunition which will help on battlefield. Thank you so much.
Ukraini.
Thank you so much. Great honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right. So that is the introduction. Now I've got I've already got some notes on the conclusion of this, but we'll try not to forget them. But let's now jump ahead. That was the introduction, roughly an hour before his speech began. Again, neither of us have actually heard the speech. Now, all right, I think that's about the start of the speech there. And 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐚𝐬 said, and I think this is interesting, that they waived the suit and tie requirement for him, or the jacket and tie, which I take he means seriously. Courts actually take those things extremely seriously. You can't go into court without a suit and tie, and I assume, or a jacket and tie, and I assume that Congress is very much the same. So that wouldn't surprise me that they there was a issue of decorum and they had to waive it. So, all right. So let's continue with this here.
It could also be that they requested, they being the Ukrainians, requested that be waived, because that's part of the image that he's trying to project, is that he is kind of a proxy in some ways for the other soldiers who are on the front. He's one of them, as opposed to some suit and tie, stand behind like Putin does.
That's an. So I think. Well, and as a leader, he's operated that way. I mean, he's been much more hands-on.
Absolutely.
I mean, quite. I'd like to talk about that when this is done, because there's a couple of things to discuss. I'm already somewhat triggered. Probably shouldn't be. It's a minor thing, I suppose, but we're going to talk after this about some reactions to this so far. So let's continue here.
But their neighbors had been tortured and murdered on the street outside of their homes. They'd heard it as it happened, and even when we got there, in the hours and days afterwards, there were still corpses of their neighbors in their neighborhood right there. And we met a grandmother who had literally hid in a little, an underground food cellar for over a month.
So this is actually
with barely any food. And
Winston Churchill. And that speech by the British Prime Minister also happened at Christmas time.
He's spending billions of dollars.
We got this, and this is from the Washington Post, so there's still
Tolu Ranipa, White House Bureau Chief. End of the night, we'll get a better sense as we watch President Zelensky make this address. This is his first trip, his first time we have seen him outside of Ukraine.
I'm just going to mute this for a minute while they're getting him up. So this is, like I said, this is we have a couple of different feeds, but the one that I could still easily get for this was this one here. So I would expect. Oh well, I was going to say I'd expect Biden to be there, but of course not. Never mind. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Героям слава!
Members, Members of Congress.
I think it's too much.
I think it is. Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor of presenting to you His Excellency Vladimir Zelenski, President of the Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'd be really curious to see a shot of either Marjorie Taylor Greene or Boebert to see what they're doing at this moment.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's too much for me. All this for our great people. Thank you so much. Dear Americans, in all states, cities, and communities, all those who value freedom and justice, who cherish it as strongly as we Ukrainians, in all our cities, in each and every family, I hope my words of respect and gratitude resonate in each American heart. Madam Vice President, I thank you for your efforts in helping Ukraine. Madam Speaker, you bravely visited Ukraine during the full-fledged war. Thank you very much. Great honor. Thank you. Great privilege to be here. Dear members of the Congress, representatives of both parties who also visited Kyiv, esteemed congressmen and senators from both parties who will visit Ukraine, I'm sure, in the future. Dear representatives of diaspora, present in this chamber and spread across the country, dear journalists. It's a great honor for me to be at the US Congress and speak to you and all Americans. Against all odds and doom and gloom scenarios, Ukraine didn't fall. Ukraine is alive and kicking. Thank you. And it gives me good reason to share with you our first joint victory. We defeated Russia in the battle for minds of the world. We have no fear, nor should anyone in the world have it. Ukraine's gained this victory, and it gives us courage, which inspires the entire world. Americans gained this victory, and that's why you have succeeded in uniting the global community to protect freedom and international law. Europeans gained this victory, and that's why Europe is now stronger and more independent than ever. The Russian tyranny has lost control over us. and it will never influence our minds again. Yet, we have to do whatever it takes to ensure that countries of the Global South also gain such victory. I know one more, I think, very important thing. The Russians will stand a chance to be free only when they defeat the Kremlin in their minds. Yet, the battle continues, and we have to defeat the Kremlin on the battlefield. Yes, this battle is not only for the territory, for this or another part of Europe. The battle is not only for life, freedom and security of Ukrainians or any other nation which Russia attempts to conquer. This struggle will define in what world our children and grandchildren will live, and then their children and grandchildren. It will define whether it will be a democracy of Ukrainians and for Americans for all. This battle cannot be frozen or postponed. It cannot be ignored, hoping that the ocean or something else will provide a protection. From the United States to China, from Europe to Latin America, and from Africa to Australia, the world is too interconnected and interdependent to allow someone to stay aside and at the same time to feel safe when such a battle continues. Our two nations are allies in this battle. And next year will be a turning point. I know it, the point when Ukrainian courage and American resolve must guarantee the future of our common freedom, the freedom of people who stand for their values. Ladies and gentlemen, Americans, yesterday before coming here to Washington, D.C., I was at the front line in our Bakhmut, in our stronghold in the east of Ukraine, in the Donbass. The Russian military and mercenaries have been attacking Bakhmut non-stop since May. They have been attacking it day and night, but Bakhmut stands. Last year, 70,000 people lived there in Bakhmut, in this city, and now only few civilians stay. Every inch of that land is soaked in blood. Roaring guns sound every hour. Trenches in the Donbass change hands several times a day in fierce combat and even hand fighting, but the Ukrainian Donbass stands. Russians use everything they have against Bakhmut and our beautiful cities. The occupiers have a significant advantage in artillery. They have an advantage in ammunition. They have much more missiles and planes than we ever had. And it's true, but our defense forces stand. And we all are proud of them. The Russians' tactic is primitive. They burn down and destroy everything they see. They send thugs to the front lines. They send convicts to the war. They threw everything against us, similar to the other tyranny, which is in the Battle of the Bulge. Threw everything it had against the free world, just like the brave American soldiers which held their lines and fought back Hitler's forces during the Christmas of 1944. Brave Ukrainian soldiers are doing the same to Putin's forces this Christmas. Ukraine holds its lines and will never surrender. So here is the front line. The tyranny which has no lack of cruelty against the lives of free people. And your support is crucial, not just to stand in such fight, but to get to the turning point to win on the battlefield. We have artillery. Yes. Thank you. We have it. Is it enough? Honestly, not really. To ensure Bakhmut is not just a stronghold that holds back the Russian army, but for the Russian army to completely pull out, more cannons and shells are needed. If so, just like the Battle of Saratoga, the fight for Bakhmut will change the trajectory of our war for independence and for freedom. If your patriots stop the Russian terror against our cities, it will let Ukrainian patriots work to the full to defend our freedom. When Russia cannot reach our cities, but its artillery, it tries to destroy them with missile attacks. More than that, Russia found an ally in this genocidal policy, Iran. Iranian deadly drones sent to Russia in hundreds became a threat to our critical infrastructure. That is how one terrorist has found the other. It is just a matter of time when they will strike against your other allies. If we do not stop them now, we must do it.
There she is, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think that's her. She ain't standing.
I believe there should be no taboos between us in our alliance. Ukraine never asked the American soldiers to fight on our land instead of us. I assure you that Ukrainian soldiers can perfectly operate American tanks and planes themselves. Financial assistance is also critically important, and I would like to thank you very much. Thank you for both financial packages you have already provided us with and the ones you may be willing to decide on. Your money is not charity. It's an investment in the global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way. Russia could stop its aggression, really, if it wanted to, but you can speed up our victory. I know it. And it will prove to any potential aggressor that no one can succeed in breaking national borders, no one committing atrocities and reigning over people against their will. It would be naive to wait for steps towards peace from Russia, which enjoys being a terrorist state. Russians are still poisoned by the Kremlin. The restoration of international legal order is our joint task. We need peace. Yes, Ukraine has already offered proposals, which I just discussed with President Biden, our peace formula, 10 points which should and must be implemented for our joint security, guaranteed for decades ahead, and the summit which can be held. I'm glad to stress that President Biden supported our peace initiative today. Each of you, ladies and gentlemen, can assist in the implementation to ensure that America's leadership remains solid, bicameral, and bipartisan. Thank you. You can strengthen sanctions to make Russia feel how ruinous its aggression truly is. It is in your power, really, to help us bring to justice everyone who started this unprovoked and criminal war. Let's do it. Let terrorists let the terrorist state be held responsible for its terror and aggression and compensate all losses done by this war. Let the world see that the United States are here. Ladies and gentlemen, Americans, in 2 days, we will celebrate Christmas. Maybe candlelit. Not because it's more romantic, no, but because there will be no electricity. Millions won't have neither heating nor running water. All of these will be the result of Russian missile and drone attacks on our energy infrastructure. But we do not complain. We do not judge and compare whose life is easier. Your well-being is the product of your national security, the result of your struggle for independence and your many victories. We, Ukrainians, will also go through our war of independence and freedom with dignity and success. We'll celebrate Christmas. Celebrate Christmas, and even if there is no electricity, the light of our faith in ourselves will not be put out. If Russian missiles attack us, we'll do our best to protect ourselves. If they attack us with Iranian drones and our people will have to go to bomb shelters on Christmas Eve, Ukrainians will still sit down at the holiday table and cheer up each other. And we don't have to know everyone's wish, as we know that all of us, millions of Ukrainians, wish the same: victory. Only victory. We already built strong Ukraine with strong people, strong army, strong institutions together with you. We developed strong security guarantees for our country and for entire Europe and the world together with you. And also together with you, we'll put in place everyone who will defy freedom. Put in. This will be the basis to protect democracy in Europe and the world over. Now, on the special Christmas time, I want to thank you, all of you. I thank every American family which cherishes the warmth of its home and wishes the same warmth to other people. I thank President Biden and both parties at the Senate and the House for your invaluable assistance. I thank your cities and your citizens who supported Ukraine this year, who hosted our Ukrainians, our people, who waved our national flags, who acted to help us. Thank you all, from everyone who is now at the front line, from everyone who is evading victory. Standing here today, I recall the words of the President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which are, I think, so good for this moment. The American people, in their righteous might, will win through to absolute victory. The Ukrainian people will win too, absolutely. I know that everything depends on us, on Ukrainian armed forces, yet so much depends on the world. So much in the world depends on you. When I was in Bakhmut yesterday, our heroes gave me the flag, the battle flag, the flag of those who defend Ukraine, Europe, and the world at the cost of their lives. They asked me to bring this flag to you, to the US Congress, to members of the House of Representatives and senators whose decisions can save millions of people. So let these decisions be taken. Let this flag stay with you, ladies and gentlemen. This flag is a symbol of our victory. In this war, we stand, we fight, and we will win because we are united, Ukraine, America, and the entire free world. Just one thing, if I can, the last thing, thank you so much. May God protect our brave troops and citizens. May God forever bless the United States of America. Merry Christmas and happy, victorious New Year. Slava Ukraini! Thank you so much.
The capital today for you. Okay.
To me.
Somebody will carry it.
I can hold.
Okay. We'll turn around.
Yes.
There we go.
This flag was flown over the Capitol today in honor of the President's visit.
Thank you so much. I will take it. I can do it. All the best.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski
All right,
speaking not only to the
so,
U.S. Congress, but to the American people as well.
Let's see. Oh, at the there we go. And so that was actually about almost 30 minutes. That was the entirety of Zelensky's speech to a joint session of Congress. With me right now are Commander Lance McMillan and 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐿, who has also joined us. And so what I'd like to do is I want to put this down here. 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐿, welcome. How are you?
A bit chilly.
Yeah, we had that discussion earlier today. Where are you, if you don't mind my asking?
I am in Lincoln, Nebraska. I actually have my camera on so you can see what the weather conditions are.
Yeah, I don't have actually I do have a spare. I can probably put you in the thing. I'll put that up. We got Zelensky in the main window there, so I'll put it up so we can see. But so what's the temperature expected to be like tomorrow? Oh yeah, I can see it.
Ambient temperature is supposed to be -7 with wind chill at about -45.
Jesus. All right, let's just
the wind just started about when I went in.
I'm not going to complain about our weather.
When I went in to get dinner, the temperature was 18 degrees. The wind wasn't really blowing very much. By the time I finished dinner and got back out to the truck, we now have 20-mile-per-hour sustained winds gusting up to 35. It's supposed to go up to 45-mile-per-hour winds by tomorrow, and it's snowing now. So the blizzard has started.
All right,
the temperature is 3 degrees, so it dropped 15 degrees in less than an hour.
Jesus. So
you're planning to go and get in a quick round of golf before you head out on the road tomorrow?
Yeah, they've got a cool outdoor Olympic-sized swimming pool just down the road here. I thought I'd get some laps in.
Yeah.
All right, there's there he is. All right, well,
now, just look on the good side of things. It's not that bad here at home for you. So,
yeah,
the wife sent me
we're only at 24 degrees.
Yeah, the wife sent me a picture, or she has to do her annual obligatory Camaro covered in snow. So she just sent me that yesterday.
All right, so gentlemen, what are your thoughts on Zelensky's speech? Let's start with 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐿.
It was really well thought out and really well executed speech. I thought the giving the flag from the front line, the one that's actually been in battle, was a pretty nice touch.
Yeah, we had a question in the live chat actually about that, and I don't know. Commander McMillan may know about how often they exchange flags with foreign dignitaries. Gifts are extremely common, whether it's a flag or not. In fact, I think for the most part, anybody who walks into the White House usually gets at least something. I imagine the flags in this particular case, since it's a war, the flags have somewhat special significance. What are your thoughts?
And if you looked at it when he held it up, you could see the flag had been signed. Presumably that's signed by the troops and officers that were in that unit fighting in Bakhmut when the president visited there. So it has a special meaning. The flag flown on the Capitol, yeah, that's it. If you actually go look, they raise and lower that flag dozens of times every day for just this purpose. Somebody will write in and saying, we're having a dedication of the new public library. Can we have a flag that was flown over the Capitol building? It's a very normal thing.
Well, yeah, the significance of giving American flags isn't so much, especially since we haven't really been much. Well, we have, but most of the significance of giving American flags is what was the flag flown over, and we do this like the Arizona Memorial.
Yeah.
I can go and re-enlist. You can choose to re-enlist anywhere. So if you want to do it on the above the USS Arizona, they'll actually raise a flag for your re-enlistment, and then they lower the flag and give it to you with a certification that it was flown over the USS Arizona. So the significance of U.S. flags when we give them is what were they flown over? So I think that
this is the flag flown over the Capitol building on the day he addressed Congress. So it definitely has significance. It has meaning. There was a lot, but it's a subtle thing that you need to know to understand. And there were several of those in his speech that I suspect 99.9% of the public have absolutely no idea why what he said was important. So, for example, you'll remember at an early part in the speech, he mentioned the Battle of the Bulge.
Mm-hmm.
It's important because today is the day, the 21st of December, that the 101st Airborne was cut off and surrounded in Bastogne.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was an incredibly well thought out, crafted speech.
This will come across as perhaps critical, trying to downplay it, but don't mean it that way. I mean this very positively. It was a brilliant bit of propaganda.
Or rhetoric, I think, is another.
Well, that too. But
okay.
it is propaganda. He's trying to shape public opinion through his statements in this speech, and it was executed brilliantly. Compare this, even with his halting English, with the bombastic crap you see coming out of the Kremlin when either Putin or one of his, thugs in waiting stands up and says something. It really is. This is the front line of the battle for world democracy is right now in Ukraine. And he, I think, conveyed that message absolutely brilliantly.
It's one of the front lines. The second one being fought with MAGA over January 6th. But anyways, yes, Xander. Exactly. Sorry, what were we going to say?
I also like talking about kind of subtlety. I mean, it was blatantly said, yet it's still kind of subtle, and I think in what he was getting at too. Talking about it's like we don't need American soldiers here, but if you were to, give us equipment, it's like we're perfectly capable of driving your tanks and flying your planes.
Which is a paraphrase of one of Churchill's things, which kind of got alluded to, which was give us the tools and we'll finish the job, which was the whole, plea for Lend-Lease during World War II.
There was a lot of Churchill references, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Any others you can think of off the top of your head from that? Or anything else that you think maybe people would want to, if you can think of anything else highlighted that was subtle in there?
I'd have to go back and review it and study it a little more because, like you said, going into this, you and I have seen this for the first time. So, but there were a couple of moments when I went, "Oh, that's very clever."
The Putin joke was risky. I thought it was clever, but it was. And somebody in the live chat said there aren't going to be any jokes here. I don't know if they meant that as a joke, but it was just like that was Putin in his place. Okay, that was clever, interesting going for the joke. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was. I'm just as I thought. I couldn't despise her anymore. It's like even I've been at speeches with people who have been saying things that I, in general, or with people who I oppose when I was, doing work on political campaigns, and my policy usually is to just stand up with my hands behind my back, just like, or at my side. It's crystal clear I'm not clapping, but they deserve the dignity of standing up, and it's hard to imagine that, it's just I'm going to tweet, well, Zelensky's here. I would have hoped, I guess, and this is out there, I suppose, but I would have hoped even the most staunch, well, Ukraine's really, it's a kind of their fault or whatever, that person would recognize the suffering that's going on there, and that these people are really in a lot of trouble and there's a great deal of suffering, and try to give at least some respect to the president, if nothing more than putting down the fucking phone while he's talking. But it's...
She's a MAGA. If it isn't putting money in her pocket, it's obviously bad.
Yeah. Oh, well, so any other thoughts on this before a couple other questions and things I want to delve into that we have here? Any other thoughts from either of you? So, all right,
I think the
please.
important one is the one we're not going to see. Because we know he's going to have a private talk with Biden. That's the one that I think really will be the reason he's here. It's nice to have an address to a joint session of Congress, and that's great, but that's not getting things done, so to speak. I think what's going to occur in that closed-door meeting with Biden is going to be really a decisive factor.
And while I agree with that, I don't think that we should downplay the propaganda angle of it either, because he really does need to appeal to the American people, realizing that it's the American people that are going to drive a lot of this.
Yeah.
Well, and I was asked that today as well, I think, when we were waiting for the stream the first time around. And again, thank you, everyone, for your patience. Somebody had said, how long can Americans hold out in terms of enough support that this is tenable? They've got another, like I said, I think it was like $44 billion or whatever it was package coming up. And it's, the U.S. is certainly having some economic trouble, so it's sort of like, how long can the average American keep it up? Because if the average American decides we really don't want to be in there, it is very difficult to see how we can continue. So I guesstimated maybe the spring, and that was more actually, I think, your guesstimate. One of the first times we spoke about this, Commander, you may have adjusted, but I think you had said sort of, if it's not done by the spring, Americans are going to probably want to pull out. Does that still sound about right to you, or?
I think the spring will be when a serious debate begins about it, whether we actually pull out, whether or not the consensus among the population, the electorate in America, is that we should leave it, is a separate question. But I think the debate will be pushed starting about then, because that will be, within a few months of the new incoming freshman representatives and the GOP having control in the House, and they're going to try to use that new muscle and flex that muscle by doing something like that. I think that they will cynically play that game so that they can extract concessions of some sort from Biden if he wants to continue to support Ukraine.
That makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, I agree. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right. So Fox News carried this in its entirety. Yay. I should not have to be surprised by the fact that they did that, but they did. Unfortunately, it ran 3 minutes into Tucker Carlson's show, and he was not pleased. I know. Tucker Carlson has said that...
I stepped in some Tucker Carlson when I was out, sweeping the snow off the garden path.
Oh, well, just wait. Just wait. He criticized, first of all, of course, started out with, quote, "As far as we know, no one's ever addressed the United States Congress in a sweatshirt before, but they, the United States Congress, love him more than they love you," he said to his audience. He also pointed out that he thought that Zelensky was dressed as the owner of a strip club. Quote, "The president of Ukraine arrived at the White House dressed like the manager of a strip club and started to demand money. Amazingly, nobody threw him out. Instead, they did whatever it was that he wanted. American taxpayers," Joe Biden declared, "will continue to give Zelensky whatever he demands for as long as it takes." Carlson then noted
to
that
borrow a line from history, will no one rid us of this truculent, well, in his story's case, it was priest, in this case, commentator.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so familiar.
Reference?
I don't. The truculent should be the tip off, and it's
it's Edward wanted to get rid of Thomas Becket, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury. So rather than direct his people to kill him, he used that phrase, "Will no one rid me of this truculent priest?"
Yeah, okay. No, I would not have recalled that one. All right. So let's see. He then said a number of things, such as what Ukraine really wants is regime change in Russia, and that's, in fact, what they're after. Now, it is true that in the initial demands for their negotiations, they said they would not negotiate with Putin. He would have to be removed. They have not mentioned that since. It's been quite some time since they've mentioned that, and they have seemed to have suggested they would actually speak and negotiate even with him still in power, and that is no longer a demand. But since that happens to be the case, that is what we call in the biz something that is true. And Tucker Carlson has great difficulty with things that are true. He also then added that everything that the U.S. is sending to Ukraine is going explicitly towards the end of regime change. This also is demonstrably 100% false. We've worked very hard to make sure that the things that we send can't actually strike within Russia, and that the limits are contained really to the Ukrainian border. I'd really like to know why it is that I can say plenty of true things here and get a strike from YouTube, but he can lie his fucking ass off and Fox promotes him and sends him even more money. I'd like to figure that out someday. Anyways, he also said, quote, "What happens if he, quote, wins? What does the insurance chaos look like? Thought about that? Who's going to secure the largest arsenal once we help Zelensky topple the Russian government?" The point of this entire exercise, the point of him coming to Congress, was to fawn over the Ukrainian strip club manager and hand him billions of more dollars from our own crumbling economy. It is hard, in fact, it may be impossible to imagine a more humiliating scenario for the greatest country on earth. That was Tucker Carlson opining on the speech we just saw. Macmillan, starting with you, thoughts?
Probably a string of obscenities is not considered good for, your monetization. So I'll simply remain silent.
All right. Xandering, thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm still constantly surprised that it's now the Republican Party that is saying we should stop being interventionist. This is one of the areas why I have a difficult time with foreign policy, because one of the reasons that we have the lifestyles that we have in the United States now is because the U.S. decided it would rather fight its wars somewhere other than here. That's why we've gotten into quite a few proxy wars and gotten to be quite interventionist in lots of different areas around the world, is to secure our interests here. And I am not convinced that, were Russia to actually win and take over Ukraine, that they would stop there. And all we would need at that point is for them to actually attack a NATO member to draw us into an actual fighting war with Russia. This is one of the reasons why I'm willing to, support intervention, and I lament the fact that we are desperately trying to avoid a direct fighting war with Russia, because we could end this war in a week. If we had the guarantees that nuclear weapons weren't going to be used, we could go in and end this war within a week. And, think of all the lives that we would save. And now, while
I think we need to be important in emphasizing your little caveat there.
Caveat is yes.
Yes. If we could guarantee, that nuclear weapons were completely off of the table, nobody was going to launch any nuclear weapons whatsoever, the United States by itself could go end this war in a week and save, hundreds of thousands of lives potentially. So it's not so much that Ukraine is that shining beacon of democracy on the hill that we should go defend, but rather not so much that we're trying to defend Ukraine because of their virtue, but rather defending Ukraine against the evil that's being perpetrated against them. The Ukraine is not at fault for being invaded by Russia, and I sincerely wish that the United States could stand up and make one hellaciously big punctual exclamation point in the form of several craters, that this won't be tolerated by the free Western world. And so it surprises me the kind of mindset shift that has gone on, because this was the view of the Republican Party for quite a very long time. And when you start looking at some of the statements by prominent Republicans talking about how we should butt out of this issue, it's a regional conflict, it doesn't involve us, I think they're pretty damn short-sighted and don't have a good grasp of history when they say that. But at the same time, these protectionist, isolationist tendencies is like, okay, fine, we'll stop being the world's policeman, but what does the world look like if the United States doesn't get involved in all of these affairs? And the answer is life in America gets noticeably worse. It's like we have all of the things and privileges that we have today. We have the world's reserve currency. We have power and influence across the globe to get countries to do what we would like them to do, all for the benefit of the United States. Now, you may not particularly like the fact that we're kind of the mob boss on the block saying, oh, it's a really nice country you got there. We'd kind of like to have this. And man, it'd be a shame if these rebels invaded and overthrew your government. You may not like that, but if you enjoy the quality and standard of living that you have in the United States now, it's because the United States has been proactive in places other than the United States to try and get that influence and to get those privileges for the United States. So it just shocks me the kind of switch that's happened in the Republican Party over this, because they used to be the party of Reagan, that was, if Ronald Reagan were president right now, hell, we might actually have actual American troops in Ukraine defending Ukraine. It was that big of a deal to the Republican Party at that time. So a lot of things have shifted, and I find it a little surprising.
So we've talked about that before, and I think that merits its own show. Just the where the Republicans have it's the and I think we've talked about this too. It used to be better dead than red, and now it's what is it? I had to have this corrected for me by one of you guys the last time too. What's the new one? Better dead than blue. I don't know, something they don't want it, but better to be. Yes. So
better dead than blue makes sense as well.
So something to that. Just the idea. Yeah. I find that statement by Carlson immensely triggering, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe the fact that we've gotten to know Starsky too, and it's so, and we talk about this, and it's a pretty big deal for us here. But to be so blasé about we can all disagree on policy and politics and whether or not we should be, sending money to Ukraine. But Zelensky has been through hell. He's put his life on the line repeatedly. There's a decent possibility he's not going to get out of this alive. Calling him a strip club manager is a little hard to swallow. I'm gonna confess. So it sounds like it was for you too. So I think we will move on to that save to say that that's probably one of the more disgusting things I've heard in quite some time. And I run a YouTube channel, so that's saying something. All right. So that notwithstanding, we had one more question that I think I really wanted to hit, and then I think we're gonna call it a night. We were gonna also discuss Greece and Turkey, but I think we should save that for another show. And I'd like to remind people that we're going to have Operator Starsky on. Our next show is Operator Starsky, 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday. I hope you will join us for that. Obviously, a great deal to talk about. We're expecting to have Commander McMillan and 𝐒𝐤𝐬𝐬 there, so I think it's going to be a good show. The Starsky shows are always, and come on by. Make sure that you put a reminder up so you don't miss the show. You can ask Starsky questions, and we'll also make sure we get everyone who can come, Commander McMillan, maybe Starsky, into the VC afterwards to talk. So join us on the Discord so you're all prepped, and make sure that you got your audio working and everything for that. So come on in, join us, and that'll be a good show. So we had a question from Titan, which we've asked you about before, but I'd like to ask a little more concretely. I think this is sort of what we're talking about. And so what I'd like you to do, Commander, is to tell me, in your view, having studied a military history, being a graduate of the Naval War College, these kinds of things are your bread and butter. We're taking a look at Russia, what they are doing now in Ukraine. Everybody's like, well, maybe they would stop, maybe they won't. There's any number of factors. We really don't know. So if you could just for a minute take the 1 million foot view. In your opinion, if the U.S. either had not given money to Ukraine, which I think would constitute one set of circumstances, and or even given that we have, but let's assume that Ukraine falls. Do you believe Putin would stop there, or he would continue on to other countries? And what is the probability, in your view, that he would do one or the other?
Let's take it from the current situation. Let's not look at what might have happened. Let's look what is happening. Let's assume that magically all support for Ukraine evaporates overnight, and they're forced to fight on their own. Eventually, in all probability, try that in English this time, in all probability, Ukraine falls. It's going to take the Russians in that situation not just years, but decades to pacify the country. Once that happens, then they're in a situation where, okay, do we continue going? Well, the question then becomes, what has the West done in that interim period? If the West has decided that Russia is, in fact, a terrible threat and has revitalized NATO and all of that is in place, where does Russia go to expand? Possibly reincorporating the Stan brother countries, some of the smaller places in the Caucasus region, that kind of stuff might happen. But Eastern Europe is largely blocked at that point because they are all now NATO members. And attacking them brings this to a head. And the Russian army, at least currently, is broken. I think everybody is fully aware that if the Russian army of today went up against the NATO of today, there'd be NATO troops in Moscow within a month, probably. It would just, bowl over them. So in addition to fighting that guerrilla war for a couple of decades to pacify a collapsed Ukraine, they're also at the same time having to rebuild their army to a point where they could make a military move. And the question is, in that 20-year time frame, what's the rest of the world doing? We've already talked about the likelihood that NATO would say, okay, these guys are a real threat, and they're going to, kind of fortify themselves against them. But the flip side of that question is, what the hell are the Chinese going to do? Got to remember, Russia has a common border with China and has views that some of those Stan Brother areas are rightfully their sphere of influence, that Mongolia is rightfully their sphere of influence. And if Russia's getting aggressive, they may look at it as an opportunity for, hey, we can walk in the back door while these idiots are getting their asses kicked again. So it gets to be a real conundrum trying to figure out where things may go based on that. Now, going back to the first aspect of that question that you asked, what happened if Ukraine had not gotten support?
If I can reframe it, perhaps, do you think his original intent would have been to continue past, but for now the damage and the faults that have been shown to be in the army? Was that really his original intent, or would he have stopped there?
I don't think he would have forced a military confrontation, but I think he would have tried to threaten and coerce certain states into bowing to his will. I think the three Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, would be definitely a potential target for him to be threatening. I think countries like Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, the Stan Brothers, those kind of places. Similarly, he'd be pressuring them. I think the goal there was to kind of reestablish the Russian Empire. And when I say that, it's not just the USSR. I'm talking pre-USSR. I'm talking the Tsarist Greater Russian Empire. And yes, that does, in extreme cases, include Alaska.
Oh, dear Lord. All right. Well, thank you both. A reminder again, join us on the Discord and you can keep up with shows. We thank you again for your patience. This was delayed, but we were able to get it done. Thank both of you for coming on and for your patience as well while we tried to sort out our issues here. We will be having Operator Starsky, our next show, Operator Starsky, 1 p.m. Eastern. It will be on the Overtime channel. We'll do as we did last time. It'll probably be about 10 minutes, maybe on In Time, but we're going to move it to Overtime. So come join us on the Overtime channel, and you can get all of your news and news-related discussions there. And before we go, any final thoughts? Either of you is Andrew. Any final thoughts on this speech or what we've covered today?
I guess my final thoughts are to reiterate that, while the country of Ukraine, had some corruption issues, it had black market weapons issues. It was not a shining beacon of, what we would hope other countries would aspire to be. It had quite a few problems. The war is being fought by Ukrainian citizens, most of whom are just plain old regular people trying to get along in their life. And our support helps keep them all from dying. Secondly, we had an actual agreement with them to defend them should Russia ever attack them. I guess there's the argumentation over whether that was truly binding or not. Clearly, apparently it wasn't, because we're not doing what the original agreement said we would. So we had made some at least veiled commitments to protect them. And thirdly, if you care about spreading, I hate to say democracy, but spreading more freedom around the world versus, corrupt dictatorships, then I would think that you would very much want to support Ukraine, to the point that Ukraine's able to win the war because of all of the aid, and not just military equipment that's sending to them, that's part of it, but also actual cash aid and other logistics equipment, because Russia is pounding the ever-living hell out of Ukraine's infrastructure. He brought up that most Ukrainians are going to be having Christmas dinner by candlelight with no heat in the middle of winter, because their electric grid keeps getting targeted by Russia. So if we were to extend enough support and commit to, we're going to help Ukraine become victorious in this, and actually stand up and say, no, we care about making the world a better place and not letting Russia get away with this, and they finally repel Russia, the debt that Ukraine would be in to the United States would have an enormous amount of influence in Ukraine. And we would be able to help Ukraine become a much better country than the quasi-free place that it was before the war started. So, I guess it depends upon whether you really think that the United States should be helping to spread freedom throughout the world and should be a leader in that, like it used to be, or whether we should become protectionist and let the world devolve into whatever it's going to devolve into and lose all of our influence in the world, and just say, well, we'll just take it in the shortcomings of not having the influence to make better deals for American citizens at home. And don't forget that if you care about human life, you probably should try and get this war over as quickly as possible. The quicker that it is over, the fewer people are going to die.
All right, Commander, any final thoughts?
Not really. I think the key is that the speech to Congress was a well-executed speech, not going to go down in history as one of the great speeches, but I think it was very heartfelt. I've definitely felt moved in a number of places when he said stuff. It was a well-done speech. But to me, the great unknown is what's going to be happening tomorrow when he meets with Biden.
He met with Biden today. I don't know if he's meeting again with him, but he met with him this morning, I think, before this. And then,
regardless, I think that's the key here. This was an event, a PR event. The real meat of why he would leave his country in the middle of a war to come here is, to me, very, very pressing. He would not do this unless there was something he really needed to discuss, something he couldn't do via secure teleconference. So I think what we find out about that meeting is going to be very illuminating about where things are going to be going next.
Oh, yeah, I've forgotten to really... Well, we mentioned that briefly, which is why now? Why is he coming? And, it seemed to me that if you're going to come, now is a decent time. It's winter time and so on and so forth. But I think that's a fair point, that maybe there was an urgency because of a specific matter, which makes a lot of sense. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, and we look forward to seeing you all on Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. I was thinking of doing a Putin joke, but I think I'll leave that to the professionals. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you then. We are going to, after that, we may not talk too much. We may not do another show, and Starsky, we usually try to keep everything else out of that show. So happy holidays to all of you. If we don't see you then, we'll be doing the in-time sort of dinner table holiday celebration. More on that on our Discord and coming streams. But until then, have a marvelous weekend, and please stay safe in that weather. Good night, all.